So today I interview the coolest woman in the world, my mom. I want to welcome Miss Noreena here.
Thank you.
Say hi to all the folks.
Hey, folks.
And today is International Women's Day, so it works out great. I'm going to interview, like I said, the coolest woman I know in the world, my mother, and we're going to have a good time. We're going to dive deep and hopefully find some gems hidden deep down in this
Mind.
noggin and heart of hers. So I want to start, so you're from Kentucky
I am.
originally.
Yes.
And I want to start and just ask you a little bit about your history, you know, when you were born and kind of growing up in Kentucky as a little girl in the 50s and 60s. What was that like?
Well, as best I can remember, I'm getting to be an old lady. So I was born in 1952, and I just remember, you know, I had a great family around me, 4 sisters, mom and dad. My dad worked in the coal industry, and he was a miner. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and I had 3 other sisters, and we all grew up in a small town in southeastern Kentucky in Harlan County. And it was interesting going to school back in those days because I do remember one thing outstanding was we had drills for, I guess, nuclear holocaust if it ever hit. But I do remember that was kind of outstanding in my mind.
Doing some nuclear drills? What would you do during those?
We would hide under our desks like that was going to protect us from a nuclear holocaust.
Yeah.
But we did that, and I remember the music. I remember, you know, the Everly Brothers and playing a lot of the Everly Brothers and Elvis Presley. And
You were a big Elvis fan, right?
I was, yeah. I still am.
Yeah, still the king.
Yeah.
Cool. So you mentioned your mom and dad.
Yeah.
Your dad was a coal miner, and just want to see, like, what qualities did you find in your dad that you really admired, and how did he instill some of those into you?
I get a little emotional because I have lost both mother and dad, and Dad was a great man. It's hard to find somebody to even equate him to now, but he was very quiet. He worked really hard. He supported us for all of our years growing up, and we knew he loved us, but he was a man of few words. And what I really loved about my dad is that I never saw him curse. He never was really, negative emotionally to any of us. And he grew up in a house full of ladies, so he revered us as ladies as we were growing up. Mother was really the disciplinarian in the family. He was really easy to get along with. And, but what I love about my dad too is that he got a chance to enjoy life a little bit before he passed away. And played golf, and that was one of the things he really enjoyed. And I remember him saying he used to think that golf was for rich men only, and so I'm glad he got to do that.
Yeah, I was lucky to get to play some golf with him when I was younger.
Yeah.
He'd take us out to play, and he also, the thing I remember about him is he had a great sense of humor.
He did.
He was very funny.
He thought he was funny.
And I remember one time we drove by a cemetery, and he goes, "You know, Andy, people are just dying to live in there."
I know.
And that kind of stuff, it just cracked me up. So he was a great man. And so about your mom, we called her Nanny, it was our grandma. What kind of qualities did you admire in her, and how did she instill those in you?
Nanny was a great mother. She was always very particular about her home and cleanliness of the home, and she wanted us to be ladies when we went out, and so it was really important for us to have a good reputation and, you know, do things right, and no drinking, no cursing or anything. As a matter of fact, I never sneaked out. I never
My sisters, we never did anything that kids do today. We always kind of did what made mom and dad happy. And
Although you guys did get caught smoking one time, am I correct
well, I
about that?
didn't,
How
but
did that?
my younger sister did, and my cousin Juanice. They were.
How did that story go down?
They were very young. They were only about 6, and they sneaked mother and
6
dad.
years old.
Yes,
That's
mom
about
and
the
dad.
prime time to start smoking.
That's
maybe.
right. That's right.
In Kentucky, anyway.
That's right. So mom and dad used to smoke, and Deborah sneaked their cigarettes out and got behind a bed like they couldn't be seen, and she and Juanice were smoking away. So.
Mm-hmm. And what did Nanny do when she found out about
she
that?
She spanked both of them.
Ouch.
Yeah, and she was very much a good spanker.
She was a good spanker.
Yeah, she was.
She had some.
But mother was, she was the disciplinarian in the family, and she was a force to be reckoned with when she got upset. So
cool.
But she was a really good mom. She took very good care of us.
So you got a lot of those qualities from her.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. So you have 3 sisters.
Yes.
You're the 4th sister.
Yes.
You're how's the line? What?
Deborah's the youngest, then me, then I have 2 sisters older than me.
And how
we're
is
just
that?
A couple of years apart.
Okay. And how's that been having 3 sisters all throughout your life? You know, when you were younger and now that you're older, how has having 3 sisters affected your life?
Well, we're all very close as adults. We were close as sisters. Our family was close, and mom and dad instilled that in us too. That family is important, and I don't know how our kids are going to be and other people's children. I just don't see it as much these days as it, the nucleus of the family.
Mm-hmm.
But my sisters and I are very close, but we've talked about it, and we don't think, and our children are not as close.
Yeah.
As we were growing up.
So you see the family kind of separating apart.
Yeah.
Not only your family, but all families.
Yeah, it just kind of fans out there a little bit, and people aren't as close. But we were a very close-knit family, and I love that.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so moving on to some of the qualities that I feel like I've got from you. Just kind of talk about that, how that has affected me, and just kind of see where you got some of that stuff. So one of the things that I feel like I got from you is a sense of adventure.
Yeah.
You used to travel a lot. You would bring back maracas from Mexico and sombreros and go to the Cayman Islands and bring us back cool stuff. And, growing up in Kentucky, it's like, it's hard to see past the mountains sometimes.
It is.
So I think you doing that and bringing a lot of that stuff back opened up our imagination, at least mine, and kind of opened up a sense of adventure around the world. How did you find that sense of adventure in yourself?
I think it's tough growing up in Kentucky, especially in a small town like we did. And you just kind of look at your children that you want to see them have more opportunities than you had. And would I have ever guessed in 1,000 years I would have been to London or Russia? No, not growing up in Harlan County, Kentucky. But I've had those opportunities. And I'm, taking you guys to the Cayman Islands when we did, or taking a few little trips outside the country. I don't think you really appreciate our country unless you go to another country. And I'm really glad that you have that sense of travel. And things were a lot safer, several years ago than they are now.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't traveled so much anymore, but I really love those experiences.
Awesome.
And I'm glad you guys do it.
Another kind of quality I feel like I've got from you is, it's sort of cliche to say because a lot of people say it now, but it's true, is that you taught us that you are better than no one else and no one else is better than you.
That's right.
So talk a little bit about that, how you came to understand that and teach us that.
I think we all have our gifts that God gave us, and you guys were really successful in sports growing up. And I didn't want you to be spoiled or think too highly of yourself, and there's a fine line there because you want your children to have self-confidence, but you don't want them to be so overconfident that they think they're better than other people, because we're all children of God, and you just have to have a sense of yourself. But I think people see that. You don't have to show it to them.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to convince them. If you have to convince them, then there's something wrong.
Yeah.
But I think you have to be respectful of yourself and respectful of other people.
So it's that balance of being confident and believing in yourself. And
That's right. And not looking down at anybody, because you never know, you can't walk in that person's shoes. So just treat them with respect.
That's good. Another thing I feel like I got is the ability to dream big and, have a big imagination and feel like I can accomplish anything I want to.
And
Where does that come from?
It just comes from your own heart, really. And you teach your children. If you limit your children growing up and their dreams, then you're limiting what they may end up doing as an adult and making them happy. So, we all have to figure out where our happiness is, what makes us happy. And you've got to make a living, unfortunately. But, and if you make, you go out there and you work hard and you make a living, it's got to be something you enjoy too. So I think just finding in your heart what makes you happy and follow that.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, so moving on along to what you know about raising children and family life and marriage. So kind of just want to get some insight from you, because you've got a lot of experience, raising kids and being in marriages. So
Plural, that's not a good thing.
It's all right. So what's the hardest thing about raising children, would you say?
The hardest thing about raising children is, and I have two wonderful sons, I want to say, is to let them go is the hardest thing, because all you know are these beautiful children that you have that are in your care. And as they get older, you know that they have got to start stepping out on their own. And that's really, really hard as a parent, because you don't really know how much a parent loves a child until you have your own children. You really don't.
Mm-hmm.
You can think you do, but you don't. And there's no other love like a parent loving their children.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, to me, that is the most challenging thing, is to let your children go, get their sea legs, go through life, figure out what they need to do, because you do want to help them so much along the way too. But if you help them too much, then they may not appreciate what they have when it's all said and done.
It's like finding that balance of giving them tough love when necessary.
That's right.
Letting them scrape their knee up a little bit.
And that's tough to do.
Yeah.
It really is.
All right. Well, so what's the best thing about raising children, and what's the most rewarding thing you found?
Oh gosh, the most rewarding thing is just the blessing of having children around. Just the Christmas. Christmas is not the same if you don't have little ones around.
Mm-hmm.
And just the love that they show you, the little things that they do, the learning curves that they go through, and just to watch them grow up it's just awesome. It's just hard. It really is hard to explain as a parent.
Yeah,
but
something you gotta experience
you
for
have
yourself.
to experience it. You really do. But it's something I would never trade anything for.
Okay, cool. Well, on to relationships and
Failed at that.
marriage. No, you've done good. I think. So you're in your second marriage right now. You were married to my father for many years, and you've been married to Mr. Lonnie Cole now for many years. And you've those have been basically your two main long-term relationships. So
That's right.
I feel like you've been successful in your relationships because you've stuck with them through thick and thin a lot of times. So just kind of want to get your insights about it. So similar to the children's, like, what's the hardest part about being in a marriage?
Marriage can be very difficult when you have two very different people. And I think you really realize you have to have a common ground with this person, well, more than just one, before you marry them. But your father and I had, you and Ryan, two beautiful sons together, and honestly, we get along better now than we did when we were married. And I think that's because maybe sometimes you just don't really respect the person that you're with as much as you should. And I can be a little feisty. I've gotten some of that from my mom, and I know that sometimes I can be too much in charge when I shouldn't be. But you got to find a balance to that.
Yeah.
And I think I found a balance with that with Lonnie.
Great. So what's the best thing about being in a marriage?
Oh, I think sharing life with somebody that you love is so important, because your children go off and find their own life, and it's okay to be single. I mean, but it can be very lonely.
Mhm.
And, you know, having a partner, having somebody there with you just makes life a lot more interesting.
Right. So what advice would you give to a young woman or a young couple, you know, setting out in a relationship, in a marriage? What advice would you give to them to be successful, keep it strong?
Respect each other, respect each other's contribution to the marriage. Never put somebody down, never be abusive towards anybody, and, you know, just figure out making sure that your goals are shared goals, and take time to be a couple. And sometimes people get caught up raising their children and doing this and doing that, and you really do forget about the relationship between the husband and wife.
Yeah. Make sure to build in that date night.
That's right.
And keep the spice in there.
Also, don't think for 1 minute that when you marry somebody, you think, well, they just got this issue and we can change them. No, the people you marry are the people you marry.
Yeah.
We all mellow out as we get older. Thank God for that. But
you must love them for who they are at that moment.
that's right. And we all have our faults. So you just got to deal with it.
You don't have any faults.
Oh, yeah. Just a few.
So you brought us a banjo, brought me a banjo, and brought some musical instruments to Ryan.
Yeah.
When you gave me that banjo at 15, do you now feel any remorse that you have a 37-year-old starving artist on your hands?
Well, I thought one of you were going to come up with a cure for cancer or something like that.
Maybe the banjo is the cure for cancer.
Maybe it is. Music has its place in the world. Thank goodness. It makes the world a better place, that's for sure. But never disappointed as long as you're happy. It's your, you know, it's your life. I can't live it for you, so you got to decide.
So I'm a happy person.
Yeah.
So you've done that.
Yeah. Well, no, you did that.
So how would you feel like? How do you feel about balancing happiness and making money, making a living?
Well,
because there's a lot of artists out there, a lot of musicians, a lot of painters and stuff who are wonderful artists who just aren't, barely getting by. So what advice would you have for people like that?
Well, there's an old saying that's very popular today: money cannot buy happiness, and it can't. I know some people that are very wealthy that are extremely unhappy with their life. So I think you have to balance the fact that, you know, nobody's happy really being poor. I mean, you can be happy with yourself, but unfortunately, it takes money to do the things you want to do in life. You like to travel. That's not free. So you have to come up with a balance, I think, that you might have to do a job that you're not really excited about, but it might enable you to, you know, continue your music career.
Yeah.
So it's just a balance. It's just a balance. And the good news is, I mean, I worry about it a little bit, but I don't want to say that I want to see you in an 8-to-5 job either.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So wrapping up here, you know, a lot of young people out there trying to find their way. You've got a lot of life experience. You've done very well. You're a very happy person, I feel like. And what advice would you give to the young folks out there trying to find their way and moving on about through life?
Well, today society's a little different than it was when I grew up, and I think we've gotten angrier. I think there are more haters out there than there should be. I wish people would just take a step back and just kind of be a respecter of all people and of themselves, and, you know, just take life. Don't take it quite so serious, but follow your dreams and do what you have to get through life and be the best person you can be. And that's if you become the best person you can be, I think if we all took that advice, we would be a much better society for it.
That's great advice. Coming straight from the woman's mouth here. Thank y'all so much for listening in. This is Miss Noreena here, my mother, the coolest mom in the world. Thank you so much. This is the Banjo Earth Show. We'll see you guys next time. Love you.
Bye.
Peace. Little sound check here. Just let me know what was the last thing you ate.
Shrimp.
And what else?
Salad. And hush puppies.